Before you send a single number to a potential client, there are three main questions that need to be asked. So stay here, have a listen as I talk about these three questions, and it is going to make the biggest difference between a client for life and you completely getting ghosted, because we know how that works. Business. Because we have a camera, we take photos, that's sure, but that is becoming less and less of a unique, special quality in the world as everybody is carrying these babies in their pocket and they think they're photographers. So what's really going to set you apart from everybody else, and also what's going to make the difference between a photographer who comes on the scene for a year and who's going to be a photographer with a longevity career, is business. It's not as fun, it's not as sexy until you make it that way. Now I love it. But that's why we're going to talk about here business stuff. Psychology of business behind the photography business. So it's not just you and a camera taking pretty photos. So today we are going to talk about three really important things and questions you need to ask any couple that's inquiring to get married with you. First, we're going to talk about why it's important to wait before you send out your first packages and any prices. And then we're going to talk about the three questions specifically. What information do you need from every couple, why it's important, how you're going to ask it. And we're going to dive right in. So let's start with the why. First, I get it. You're super stoked. You want to book that client and they say straight out of the gate, what are your prices? Which is a natural question to ask. This is the thing to remember. When you are a photographer and people are inquiring with you, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they don't really have that much experience hiring professional photographers, especially wedding photographers, because again, most of the time they're only doing it once, maybe two or three times in their life, but they're not really that involved. Where you are the professional who knows how the industry works. Always remember this. Just because someone says they want something, they may not actually know what they want. So the problem is, once you send out this first package, there's no going back. You've already officially given this potential client your quote first impression. You've answered their question, what is your prices? But the problem is you and they don't even actually know what question they really asked, because prices with weddings can range not only between photographer, as we know, but also what you're offering. You have the flexibility to make packages limitless. They're limitless, the ways and combinations you can to create a package. So when someone asks for your prices, you need to know exactly what they're asking. What are they asking for? And there are so many different packages, and not every package is for every couple, right? And not everyone is for everyone. So not every photographer is for every couple either. So before you go down the path of giving prices, you want to make sure you're answering the right question. So full disclosure, a lot of these talks, I obviously know the base of the information, but I always kind of use a little chat GPT as a little extra resource, which I highly suggest, totally acceptable using. I use it and I double check it and I see, oh, is there extra information I can share? Because I just always want to give the most up-to-date and, valuable information I can when I'm on these chats. So this time I went to my usual chat GPT after I knew what I wanted to talk about. And I asked, can you give me 10 of the most important questions to ask a couple before you send packages? And guess what? ChatGPT was so wrong. Yes, they were all very interesting questions, and they're questions you should know at some point, but not necessarily what you need to know before you send your packages. They're all information you're going to eventually learn from the couple. I'm just going to read you a couple of what they said out of the 10. How did you hear about us? Great. That's great to know. Is it really number one? I don't think so. That has nothing to do with where they're coming from. Maybe a little, but in the whole scheme of things, it's circling around the questions you really want to ask. Who are these people? Can you meet their budget? Can you offer what they want? What is your wedding date? Okay, again, good to know, but most likely you're going to get that right away anyways. Wedding venue, again, same. Good to know, not necessarily a need. What is your vision for your day? That's nice. We'll talk about this a little bit different, but again, is it needed? How many guests are you expecting? What is the most important part of your wedding day to be captured? Do you have a wedding planner and coordinator? Do you have any specific photo requests? Have you seen our portfolio? Is there a style you like? Yes, these are all fine and dandy questions. But are they really what you need? No. So obviously, the first question you want to ask is, and often couples don't want to share this outright. I can't stand it, but it's something people never want to share completely. And that is the ever dreaded money talk. What's your budget? Now, this isn't exactly the question you want to ask. You actually want to ask, what is your budget range? You don't want it to be black and white. You don't want it to be hard stop, hard yes and no. You want a range. And a range is a little less scary. It's a little less committal. It's easier for you also as a photographer to work with, because you then have the opportunity to give a range of package options. So this is what I usually say. What is your budget range? And then I usually say a little caveat. This makes it easier for me to create multiple packages for you. So it gives people options. That's what they want. You're basically using these 3 questions to get an idea of who they are and start a conversation so you can get to know each other. Now, the question is, what do you do with this answer? Here's the thing. The answer doesn't necessarily give you their budget. Yes, it gives you an idea of where the couple, what they think they're spending, if you will. But what it really does, and it gives you an idea of where the couple stands in the understanding of photography costs, right? This range that they're giving you is not carved in stone. If you need to adjust packages or not, you need to refer to them with a different photographer. So what I'm saying is, it gives you an idea of where the couple understands. For example, if they're saying, I have a $5,000 budget and higher, you kind of know where they stand and what they expect and how they are, and you get an idea. If they say, I have a $500 budget, you also understand this. So it just gives you a range of ideas. So for example, you could get ghosted really easily as if a couple comes to you and says, what's your prices? And you say, my prices are $4,000, but they only want 1 hour for an elopement on a Wednesday. They're going to go, oh, well, done. Not her or him or they. They're just going to be never answer from them. But again, you could even say a range, right? Ranges are the answer, but when you can offer a range, but then you're not offering packages. So by asking this question, you're getting an idea. So now you know this. Now the question is, you need to know the what question. You've got what they want to spend. Now what do they want? So this is where you take these 2 questions and you're going to start to adjust packages. Or you're going to see the price and be like, you know what, it's not even worth me putting this effort in. I'm going to suggest a different photographer. So now the next question. What do you want? Obviously, you don't ask it this way. You ask this in 2 questions, right? So technically, I'm giving you 4 questions you should ask. The 3 and then the 1 little other one. So 2 questions. You're going to ask, how many hours would you like? And what would you like included? You want to offer them examples, engagements, albums, rehearsal dinners, etc. Kind of put it in the parentheses next to the question, because it also gets their ideas, their mind going, that puts them mentally in a place of, oh, I hadn't thought about having a photographer there, or I hadn't thought about including that now. Because again, what you know as obvious photography knowledge, like, well, of course the album's included in the package. Some people might think, no, I don't deal with that until after, right? Because there's also things called sitting fees where people just pay for the photography service and then they do the products later. And then there's people who do everything at once. There's so many ways that people work things. So you want to put some ideas in their head and you want to start thinking, so this also gives you the answer. And if they don't put anything, that also gives you an answer. If they put nothing, that's an answer in and of itself as well. Now, like the budget question, this isn't about what you will actually include in the packages. It's about what they know and what they understand and what their inner understanding of workings of a wedding and a timeline is. You just want to get a feel of who this person is so that you can answer the question they're not actually even asking. You're going to read their mind in a way, which again is going to lead to conversations. It's going to lead to clients, it's a relationship and having clients for life versus them going, nope, not my person, and ghost out. So remember, you are the expert. As I mentioned, you understand more than they do. So you take this time to educate them and explain things. And they're also going to appreciate you taking the time, right? So they might say, for example, that they want 12 hours of coverage. But you know that based on their wedding venue or based on what you know already, most couples don't actually need 12 hours of coverage. And oftentimes people say 8 because they've Googled somewhere or looked on Pinterest and said 8 hours is full day coverage. They might not have that. And for me personally, I'm on the higher end. And if I come out of the gate saying my high prices, they're going to ghost me. So when I come in and say, you know what, you might not need 8 hours. And part of what we do is figure out what's right for you. Why don't we look at 6 hours? This is where you can customize. And if you just go out of the gate and give them prices of what they say, you've ruined your chance to communicate and build relationships, right? So this is where figuring out what they think they want helps you figure out what they actually want, what their budget is, gives you an idea of how they view photography. And again, if they put nothing, that also says something as well, right? I have a story to tell you about the budgets. I one time had a couple who wanted to get elope on Mackinac here on the island. And this was a few years ago. And there was just the two of them just eloping. And they put in that their budget was $600, which is fine for an elopement. Great. But they wanted to do it on 4th of July. They wanted fireworks. They wanted all these kind of premium ideas. So what I ultimately did, I asked them what they wanted. I asked them the days. I asked them their budget. And then I did what I could. And what I did was offer them several different days. Sure, we can do something closer to your budget on the 2nd, but if you really want the 4th, it's going to be this, this, and this. Or we can do part of the day, but not into the fireworks. Ultimately, this couple spent $3,600 and they got everything they wanted and they were perfectly happy because ultimately that $600 budget is what they Googled somewhere online. But when they really went back and thought about what they're going to get, because, you know, I took the time to communicate with them, it was amazing. And it was one of the funnest wedding shoots I've ever done. So now, the final question. What is your love story and your wedding story? So this is kind of like the tell me your story. Give the couple a chance to talk about their love and their wedding and get excited. And this is why it's great for you. It shows how serious the couple is to booking you. The more they share, the more they are talking to you, they're taking you and your photography seriously. So if they're just leaving it blank with one word, or you can tell it's a copy and paste, or, you know, like there's literally been times that I've gotten this question back and it's had me in tears because it was just so beautifully written and so true. And then I now feel connected to the couple, which makes me more excited. So before you are investing time and energy into putting together all of their proposals and working with becoming their photographer and building this relationship, they're actually investing time and energy into having a conversation with you on your questionnaire. It also gives you the opportunity to understand the couple more and to relate and to see if you and them are an amazing match or a runaway and hide type of anti-match. You get to see like, oh, I connect to that. I relate to that. Or you can pick up on avatar and ideal client type of stuff. So like, oh, you know, he proposed to me on the top of a mountain while we were hiking in Colorado. That gives you an idea of what this couple is like. Or she proposed to me on a skylife rooftop under the stars in New York City. Again, different look, different feel, right? Or we were at home, sitting at home in our backyard, watching our kids play. All of these give you different ideas and different vibes. That these 3 questions we just talked about are really big indicators, and it's going to really help you tailor your packages. The couple's going to see that. What I tend to do often is I might have a few set packages that I tweak along for each couple, but then there might be a customized 4, which again, everyone just wants to feel heard and feel special and unique, especially on their wedding day, because there's a lot of anxiety around it, and you are there to help ease that anxiety. If you send out a package before asking these 3 big questions, you're basically sending an answer to a question that hasn't actually been asked. You're just guessing, right? And they could easily then say, nope, move on, right? You're kind of trying to like throw a dart, hit a target, but the target's moving, right? And maybe the other photographer is going to somehow guess exactly what this couple wants to hear or thinks they want to hear and hit the target. But by you gathering this information, it's going to slow down that target so you can hit a bullseye. So also one more thing to think about is the longer you ask these questions, and the more you ask these questions over time, the more you can read a lot into these answers. You can start to relate. You get to understand who they are because you're seeing it over and over and over again. You can offer your clients packages that they didn't even know existed, and that is exactly what they are looking for. So, that is our quick little talk today. I hope it was helpful. I know it probably seems like something you wouldn't really think that that's important, but to be honest, it's been a pillar in my business to ask these three questions in this specific way. And I love it too because I really get to know my couple and I kind of know where to go. Like I said, I'm moving my target. I'm slowing down my target so I can hit a bullseye. Or not. It might be one that I look at and I go, awesome.